You ready now?
I'm just checking the YouTube channel to make sure it's there. All right, I'm going to broadcast now. We're good, Mr. McAllen.
Thank you very much. This meeting will proceed as a teleconference in compliance with waivers to certain Brown Act provisions under the governor's executive orders in response to the COVID-19 state of emergency. The agenda provides members of the public the ability to provide comment when participating via Zoom video conference or Zoom via phone by either clicking the raise hand button from the Zoom browser or Zoom app, or for those on Zoom via phone, they can also raise their hands by pressing *9. Comments and testimony are limited to 3 minutes. Additionally, the agenda also informs members of the public that they may submit written comments by mail, email, or online through the Commission's website public comment link no later than 7:30 a.m. today. These comments and testimony will be read onto the meeting record at the appropriate time. I will now call to order the Local Agency Formation Commission meeting for January 20th, 2021. And Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Good morning, Commissioners. Commissioner Bagley,
I am here.
Commissioner Cox,
Present.
Commissioner Curatolo, Commissioner Dameyer,
Present.
Commissioner Dennison,
Dennison here.
Commissioner Farrell,
Yes.
Commissioner McCowan,
Yes,
Commissioner Rao, Commissioner Rutherford, Commissioner Warren. Thank you.
do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry I'm late. This is Dawn Rao.
That's all right. Don, good to see you. Better than late than never, right? Okay, if you would all mute your microphones and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Anyone present at the hearing who is involved with any of the changes of organization to be considered and who has made a contribution of more than $250 in the past 12 months to any member of the commission will be asked to state for the record the commission member to whom the contribution has been made and the matter of consideration with which they are involved. Are there any such declarations?
Mr. Chairman, I will abstain from item number 6 in an abundance of caution. This is Dawn Rao.
Item 6, okay. I see no other hands raised. We now move to our consent calendar, items 1 through 3, which are expected to be routine and non-controversial. Are there any items to be deferred for discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, were there any written comments submitted for any of the consent items?
None received.
Okay, is there any public on Zoom who wish to speak on this item? Please click the raise hand button, or for those on via phone, please raise your hand by pressing *9. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion on the consent calendar.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of consent.
Thank you, Dr.
I'll
Cox.
second this, Steve, but I did have a comment. I raised my hand, but it wasn't recognized, Larry. I'm sorry. A little
I'm
slow.
sorry, I didn't see it. Go ahead with your comment.
I'm misspelling of my name under the attendance of the minutes. Just want to have that corrected. Very minor change, but personal.
Yes.
We'll
Thank you.
do, Mr. Farrer.
Thank you.
So the motion, we have a motion and a second with a slight amendment on a name change, spelling change. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Bagley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner McCowan,
Yes.
Commissioner Rao,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren,
yes,
and Commissioner Farrell.
Yes.
We now have before us our public hearing items 5 and 6. Item 5 is a three-part item, each of which will be taken separately. Item 5A is the environmental consideration for both LAFCO 3242 and LAFCO 3243. Item 5B is the sphere amendment proposal, LAFCO 3242. And item 5C is the reorganization proposal, LAFCO 3243. I'll now open the public hearings on item 5A and ask staff to make a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As many of you are aware, the commission has to take the sphere action first before you can consider a reorganization or an annexation proposal. And because both items have the exact same consideration for environmental review, instead of doing exactly the same environmental review twice, the commission is taking the environmental consideration to address both items first, followed by the sphere action, and then the reorganization proposal. So let's begin with item 5A. The City of Fontana, as lead agency under CEQA, prepared and certified an environmental impact report for the I-15 logistics project. Therefore, for environmental review for both LAFCO 3242 and LAFCO 3243, the commission will be acting as a responsible agency to the city's environmental assessment for the project. As mentioned earlier, once the commission has made its determination related to the environmental review for both items, it can then move forward with the actual review of each item individually and separately. Mike, next slide, please. Next one. The city's evaluation of the I-15 logistics project, which is a proposed warehouse facility, not only included the review of the environmental impacts related to the project itself, it also included the evaluation and description of the LAFCO actions related to the sphere of influence amendments and the proposed reorganization proposal, including the required pre-zoning. As responsible agency, LAFCO staff was involved early in the city's process by providing feedback through the issuance of the notice of preparation by the city, and also providing comments through the draft EIR public review period. Next slide, Mike. So for LAFCO 3242, this proposal includes the sphere of influence expansion for the city, the Fontana Fire Protection District, and the West Valley Water District, and the sphere of influence reduction for county fire. For LAFCO 3243, the jurisdictional changes include the annexation to the city, the Fontana Fire Protection District, the West Valley Water District, and the San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District, and detachments from county fire, its service zones, as well as detachment from CSA 70. The Commission's environmental consultant, Tom Dodson and Associates, has reviewed the city's complete final EIR and has indicated that the city's environmental documents are adequate for the Commission's use as a responsible agency for both items. Copies of the city's environmental documents were provided previously to the Commission and is also included as links on attachment number 2. So for environmental review for LAFCO 3242, and LAFCO 3243. The recommended actions and determinations are on pages 1 and 2 of the staff report, which are also outlined on the screen. Certify that the complete final EIR prepared by the city for the I-15 logistics project have been independently reviewed and considered by the commission, its staff, and its environmental consultant. Determine that the complete final EIR is adequate for the commission's use as CEQA responsible agency for its determinations related to LAFCO 3242 and LAFCO 3243. Determine that the commission does not intend to adopt alternatives or additional mitigation measures, and that the mitigation measures identified for the project are the responsibility of the city and others, not the commission. Adopt LAFCO resolution number 3323, which includes the environmental findings and statement of overriding considerations. And finally, direct the executive officer to file notices of determination for both LAFCO 3242 and LAFCO 3243. That ends my presentation for item 5A. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time. And Tom Dodson, the Commission's environmental consultant, is also on the call for any questions directed at him.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions for staff? None. Does the applicant wish to speak on this item? I see one hand raised.
Yes, good morning, members of the commission. My name is Daitanian Johnson with the city of Fontana. Just wanted to say, as the applicant for the annexation, we appreciate communication with LAFCO throughout the process, and we are in support of the annexation. Thank you.
Very good. Madam Clerk, were there any written comments submitted for this item?
None received.
So public on Zoom who wish to speak on this item, please click the raise hand button, or for those on via phone, please raise your hand by pressing *9.
Commissioner McAllen,
Yes.
there is somebody, Lillian Sapp, submitted a question in
The chat, which means
in the chat. I just want to make sure that if she's a member of the public, that she should raise her hand to speak, because we don't answer questions in the chat.
Ms. Sapp, if you're on the meeting, there you go. Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Sapp. Unmute your microphone. Go ahead.
Okay, good morning. Can you hear me? Hello?
Ms. Sapp?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. I didn't raise my hand because I thought you were discussing the Fontana issue, and I didn't have a question about that. I wanted to ask questions about the annexation regarding properties located in the Bell Mountain area.
That's item 6, Ms. Sapp.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
That's item 6 on the agenda. We're not there yet.
Oh, okay. You're not there yet.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's why I didn't raise my hand. I thought I'd throw the question out there or put him out there ahead of time. So, sorry,
Okay.
didn't mean to interrupt a meeting.
No problem. Come back to item 6. Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak on this item in the public? Seeing none, we'll bring it back and I'll close the public hearing on item 5A and bring it back to the commission for deliberation and action. Commission.
Mr. Chairman, I move the staff's recommendation. Jim Bagley.
Motion by Bagley. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Dr. Cox. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Bagley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner McAllen,
Yes.
Commissioner Rao,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren,
Item passes. Thank you very much. We now have before us item 5B, dealing with the sphere amendment. And I will open the public hearing and ask staff for presentation.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Mike, thank you. This is an overview of the project vicinity. As noted earlier, the project is a proposed warehouse facility located within the city's northernmost sphere area. And in order to provide for a logical boundary, the city is not only proposing to annex the project area itself, but instead the city is proposing an annexation boundary that takes in generally the entire road right-of-way for Lila Creek Road, which requires not only an adjustment of the city's sphere, but also an adjustment of the spheres for the other agencies that serve the community. Next slide, Mike. So for the city of Fontana, its current sphere runs along the center line of Lila Creek Road. Therefore, in order to match the proposed reorganization boundary, which is in red, it has to include the entire right-of-way for Lila Creek Road. And the city sphere also needs to be expanded to include the couple of parcels that are either part of the project itself and are pieces of a larger parcel. The boundaries for both existing fire districts, Fontana Fire Protection District and County Fire, abut each other along the city's existing sphere. Therefore, the amendment for both agencies, expansion for the Fontana Fire Protection District and reduction for County Fire, is the exact same area proposed for expansion of the city sphere. In making these sphere amendments, the fire district spheres will continue to abut the city sphere, and eventually their boundaries will also follow along the city's boundary upon completion of the reorganization. Finally, the sphere expansion for West Valley Water District is to include that triangular portion at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. That is not currently within its existing sphere, which is being proposed to be included within the overall reorganization proposal. Page 5 of the staff report outlines the rationale for why a service review is not required for this proposal. The report also outlines the factors of consideration related to the sphere amendments as outlined on pages 6 and 7 of the staff report. The overall theme is that the areas designated for sphere amendment will remain generally vacant as ancillary to the project's parking facility, open space landscaped area for the project, and as well as a way to access Lila Creek Road, since part of that area is generally where the realignment of Lila Creek Road is being proposed. Finally, whenever we do a sphere change for a special district, we are to review and identify the range and services to be provided, as well as the nature and location of these services. And so staff is recommending no change for the service descriptions for all 3 districts. With that, the staff is recommending that the commission approve LAFCO 3242 by taking the actions outlined on page 1 of the staff report, which are also on the display. Determine that the proposed sphere of influence amendments submitted under the provision of Government Code 56428 does not require a service review. Number 2, approve the sphere of influence expansion for the city of Fontana. Approve the sphere of influence expansion for the Fontana Fire Protection District and the concurrent sphere of influence reduction for the San Bernardino County Fire Protection District. Approve the sphere of influence expansion for the West Valley Water District. Affirm the descriptions of the functions and services for the Fontana Fire Protection District, West Valley Water District, and San Bernardino County Fire Protection District as identified in the LAFCO Policy and Procedure Manual. And finally, adopt LAFCO Resolution number 3324, reflecting the Commission's determinations for LAFCO 3242. That ends my presentation for item 5B. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Any questions of staff?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Go ahead, Dr. Cox.
Sam, are there any residential dwelling units in this proposed annexation area?
For the annexation area, yes. For the sphere, there is one parcel that includes a single dwelling unit.
Okay, and they're currently under the FP5 tax, and this annexation would remove that tax? Is that
correct?
Okay, so that, all right, that's all I had. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions from the commission? Seeing none, does the city of Fontana or any of the affected agencies wish to comment? You'll have 5 minutes if you do. Go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
Yes, once again, my name is D'Artagnan Johnson with the city of Fontana, and just wanted to further extend my appreciation, in working with Sam and his team on the annexation. And we look forward to your decision on the annexation, and we're in full support. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody from the affected agencies on the line? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, were there any written comments submitted for this item?
None received.
If the public are on Zoom who wish to speak on this item, please click the raise hand button. And for those on via phone, please raise your hands by pressing *9. I see none. I will close the public hearing on item 5B and bring it back to the commission for discussion and action. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move the staff's recommendation. Jim Bagley.
Mr. Bagley, thank you.
I'll be happy to second that.
And second by Dr. Cox. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Bagley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner McCowan,
Yes.
Commissioner Rao, Commissioner Warren,
Yes.
Commissioner Farrell.
Yes.
That item passes. Thank you very much. We now have before us item 5C, dealing with the reorganization. I'll now open the public hearing and ask staff to make a presentation.
Mike, can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Let's now move on to item 5C. Next slide, Mike. For every reorganization proposal, we look at 4 major areas of consideration: boundaries, land use, service issues, and environmental considerations. We've already addressed the environmental consideration for this proposal. So for boundaries, the proposed reorganization includes several jurisdictional changes to ensure that the reorganization provides a clear and efficient service delivery among all affected agencies. Next slide, Mike. So for the annexation to the city of Fontana, which also includes the detachment from County Service Area 70, the area includes the entire reorganization area. It's about 150 acres. Next slide, Mike. Thank you. Go back. The annexation to Fontana Fire Protection District and detachment from County Fire and its service zones is the exact same area as the sphere amendment area to ensure that their boundaries match the city's proposed boundaries. The annexation to West Valley Water District is also the same area as the sphere expansion area for the said district. And finally, the annexation to San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District. The wholesale water provider for the area is also the same area being annexed to West Valley Water District. As shown on the display, the area is already within the sphere for that agency, which is why there was no need to address the sphere change for Muni or the Valley District earlier. It is staff's position that the reorganization proposal provides for a logical boundary since it includes not only the project area proposed for development, but also includes all of the properties generally south of Vital Creek Road, which is an easily identifiable boundary for service delivery. The proposed reorganization also includes all the necessary changes in boundaries for all the local agencies serving the community to ensure their boundaries are consistent with the city's boundaries. With regards to land use, the area is generally vacant with a few single family residences and a row of transmission lines. The city pre-zone, the I-15 logistics project, next slide, Mike, please, as light industrial, and the rest of the reorganization area as residential estates, public utility, and general commercial. These pre-zone designations are consistent with the city's general plan as well as surrounding land uses. Staff report also outlines the service issues in detail, beginning on page 7, that indicate the extension of services will maintain and or exceed current service levels provided by the county or other detaching agencies. Again, the city's purpose of initiating this reorganization proposal is to annex the proposed warehouse facility known as the I-15 logistics project. The proposed reorganization proposes a logical boundary for the city that also includes all the necessary changes in boundaries for all community-based local agencies. Therefore, staff is recommending that the commission approve LAFCO 3243 by taking the actions outlined on page 1 of the staff report. 1, approve LAFCO 3243 with standard terms and conditions that include but are not limited to the hold harmless clause. And finally, adopt LAFCO Resolution 3325, setting forth the Commission's determinations and conditions of approval for LAFCO 3243. That ends my presentation for item 5C, and I'll be happy again to answer any questions at this time.
Commissioners, any questions of staff? Seeing none, does the city of Fontana or the affected agencies wish to speak on this matter? I see no raised hands. Madam Clerk, are there any written comments submitted?
None received.
If there's any public on Zoom who wish to speak on this item, please click the raise hand button. If you're on the phone, raise your hand by pressing *9. I see Mr. Johnson wants to speak. Go ahead.
Yes, good morning once again, members of the commission. My name is Lieutenant Johnson with the city of Fontana. Thank you for your consideration, and we are in support of the annexation. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any public members wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing on 5C and bring it back to the commission for discussion and action. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to make the motion on this item.
I'd be happy to make the second, Mr. Chair.
And Aquanetta Warren makes a second. Thank you very much, Aki. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Yes. Commissioner Bagley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner McCowan,
Yes.
Commissioner Rao,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren,
Yes.
Commissioner Farrell.
Yes.
This item passes. Thank you very much. We'll now go on to item 6, dealing with the review of an EIR addendum prepared for the town by the town of Apple Valley for its 2009 general plan and annexation as the responsible agency for LAFCO 3244 and
Mr. Chair?
consideration reorganization proposed in LAFCO 3244. I heard someone.
Mr. Chair, this is Dawn Rao. I need to drop off. Council has asked me to drop off because I'm abstaining from this item, and they will let me know when to come back into Zoom when the hearing resumes.
Very good, Dawn.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to have Mike make the presentation for this item.
Well, did I open the public hearing? I will open the public hearing if I haven't. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So that we're on agenda item number 6. This would be a reorganization to include an annexation to the town of Apple Valley with a detachment from CSA 70. Some time ago, about 5 years ago, and this is not this item here, this entire island area, which includes the annexation today and the previous one, LAFCO 3229, was heard by this commission, approved, but then denied or overturned through the protest proceedings by the registered voters and landowners. The town returned in early 2018 with LAFCO 3229, taking this piece. The commission approved the annexation, but with the condition that the town of Apple Valley return to annex the remainder of this island that was created by LAFCO 3229. So the end result was this island totally surrounded by the city. Now, there are some commissioners here who've been through the island proceedings that took place many years ago. These island provisions do not apply to this. This area is not substantially developed or developing, and it is too large. So if both of those items were met, including 2 others, then the commission would have the opportunity to hear this under the island provisions, which would remove the protest proceeding and also require the commission to approve it. That does not apply, so that ends there. So this is a standard proposal, meaning that the commission has the power to approve, disapprove, or modify as it sees. Should the commission approve this proposal, the registered voters and the landowners would ultimately decide the fate of LAFCO 3224 through a protest proceedings. So I wanted to make that very clear, as we have the question and answers coming through already about what's the process. The registered voters and landowners have overturned this once before, as previously mentioned, roughly about 5 years ago. The same process would apply should the commission approve this action today. So in the end, this would be decided by the voters and the landowners through the protest proceedings. Moving on, the factors of consideration for any proposal. There are boundaries, land use are the first 2 here. No boundary issues have been identified other than what I've mentioned so far, is that through the previous action, an island was created. This reorganization proposal provides for a logical boundary since it removes a wholly surrounded unincorporated territory within the town. And the second would be the county's land use designations and the city's general planning. The pre-zoning is consistent with the town's general plan and surrounding land uses. Pages 4 and 5 go into this in more detail.
Excuse me a moment. Ms. Sapp, would you mute your phone, please? Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, sir. So moving on, so this is the zoning map of the town, and showing that the central area is the area with some development, but the remainder is the one that is lacking in development. So that's why this is one factor as to why this cannot be considered under the island provisions outlined in the code. Number 3, for service issues and effects on local governments, the plan for service, along with its financial impact analysis, shows the ability of the town to extend its services. So that's up above A through F and then some, but the staff report focuses on A through F, to extend its services to the area upon the need to future, and I want to underscore that word, future development, and to maintain existing services at the time of this reorganization. As with all LAFCO actions, there's an environmental consideration. Going back to the previous annexation 3229, the actions that the commission would take today would be the same actions that it took 1 year ago regarding the annexation 3229. And that would be to certify that the commission, its staff, and its consultant have independently reviewed the town's addendum to its EIR prepared for this annexation, this particular one. And B, determine that the environmental assessment is adequate for the commission's use as a CEQA responsible agency. And C, determine that the commission does not intend to adopt alternatives or additional mitigation measures for the project. And D, to direct the executive officer to do the proper filing. So the end result is, if the commission chooses to approve this action, LAFCO 3244, the town's documents are adequate for the commission's use as a CEQA responsible agency. So to summarize everything today, staff believes that this does provide for a logical boundary. It satisfies the commission's condition from the previous action that took place roughly about 1 year and 2 or 3 months ago. And that would be to annex the island that was created by that previous action. The recommendation today would be 1, to enact the environmental review, A, B, C, and D, which I just went through on the previous slide. Number 2, to approve LAFCO 3244 with the standard LAFCO terms and conditions. And number 3, to adopt LAFCO Resolution 3226, memorializing and effectuating the commission's determinations and conditions. There were a few questions and answers, and just to go through those quickly. One individual had a question about Bell Mountain Properties annexing into the area. That is included in this annexation area. They will receive the same services as those provided to the town, and the taxation rate is directly to the landowner is not changing. It's still 1% ad valorem. Another individual on a few questions regarding, this has been attempted by the town once before, why again? And it is the town's prerogative to move forward with the annexation. It did so in 2 pieces. And this proposal, should it be approved by the commission, will live or die by the protest process, which would be through the registered voters and landowners. That ends my presentation. I'd be glad to answer any questions, and there is a representative from the town here.
Commissioners, you have any questions of staff? Seeing no hands raised, does the town of Apple Valley wish to speak on this item? Who's the town person?
The town is being represented today by Nicole Christ, consultant. And she does have her hand raised. And
Nicole, go ahead.
Nicole, are you there?
Unmute yourself. Go ahead, Nicole.
This is Lori Lamson with the town of Apple Valley.
Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, this is Lori Lamson with the town of Apple Valley.
Go ahead.
And I'm grateful for the commission to be considering this item today. We thank staff for going through the process with us, and we are supportive of this project and look forward to a successful annexation. Thank you.
You're welcome. Madam Clerk, were there any written comments submitted for this item?
Mr. Chair, yes, staff have received 4 written comments.
Would you read them, please?
Yes. Received January 12th from Mr. William Quimby. I, William Quimby, am owner of 4 parcels of land located in the County Service Area 70, which is presently in the reorganization process number 3244. I received letters on each parcel, but I am responding today to represent my request for all 4 parcels, which I will list at the bottom of this letter. I am very much in favor of the annexation and feel that having a small island of county-governed land surrounded by properties governed by the town of Apple Valley creates several problems for all concerned. If left in the county, the properties will not have access to the amenities that the town can offer. The island concept creates problems and additional costs when designing and using utility routes from the town through county parcels. I feel that my properties will lose value, stagnate, or at least not have the potential that it would have in the town. I have lived in Victor Valley since 1952, and I have seen what happens and what doesn't happen to island areas. There are several examples of this in the valley. Please approve this annexation. Parcel numbers 0472-27366, parcel numbers 0472-25401, parcel number 0472-25402. Thank you very much, William Quimby. Second comment received January 13th from John W. Quimby. Believing that North Apple Valley will continue to grow in population and needs annexation will allow the area to receive town services, which will enable the area to attract businesses and homeowners, no longer being a blight on landscape. Respectfully, John W. Quimby, property owner, assessor parcel number 0472-32157. Third comment provided. Received on January 19th from George M. Mabel. I have owned 2 lots in LAFCO 3244 since 1969. Assessor parcel number 04. I'm sorry, I'm hearing a lot of echo. Can someone mute their phone, please? Staff?
Ms. Sapp, would you mute your phone? And
Thought my phone was muted.
it's not muted right now.
I hear it.
And the town of Apple Valley, would you mute your phone, please?
Thank you so much. Okay. Again, this is received from George M. Mabel. I have owned 2 lots in LAFCO 3244 since 1969. APN 0472-28201 and APN 0472-28407. I have always known this area would become valuable at some time. The proximity to the I-15 off-ramp is overripe for development. Adding this area to the town of Apple Valley would immediately increase the land value many times over, since it would be within an existing proposed development plan to make some areas commercial, retail, and light industrial. Town services are also a major bonus, such as trash collection, sewer, roads, park and rec, and better policing. I have been paying property taxes on this land for over 50 years with minimal gains, if any, on property value. It's way overdue time to reverse that situation. I pray this time that the 700 actual owners of the parcels involved will be able to control the future of their own properties and not just the 60-70 residents, as in the last attempt for annexation. George M. Mabel, resident of Apple Valley since 1978. The last comment received on January 20th from Tony Thomas. To whom it may concern, this email is in response to the proposed annexation of LAFCO 3244 and may continue desired not to be included in said annexation. The residents of the affected area have previously voted against annexation, but the town has found a way to circumvent that vote and our wishes. This letter asks that in light of this maneuver, I hereby wish to remain in the county's sphere of influence. I live on a fixed income, and as such, I live within my means. The town in no way supports my way of life, as my electricity is provided by Southern California Edison. My water comes from my well, and my food comes from the grocery store. I utilize county-provided disposal permit to dispose of my household waste, and to be subject to the town's mandatory waste pickup would pose a financial hardship for me. In light of the fact that my family has resided in this area since 1938, we predate the existence of the town by a few decades and have apparently been able to successfully exit without the town of Apple Valley's guidance. I am hoping that this email is not an exercise in futility. Thank you, Anthony Thomas. That concludes the written comments received.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Just a reminder, public on Zoom who wish to speak on this item, please click the raise hand button, or those on the phone, press *9 to raise your hand. I have at least 4. Ms. Sapp, you're up.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I have 2 parcels. Parcel number 0472-273-35-0000, and also parcel 34-000. I have several questions. I was reading the letter regarding, I'm right in the, looks like right in the middle of this island that was created. I have my own water supply, my own well on my property. And I was reading the letter that it said that if we were annexed into Apple Valley, we would have the quote unquote ability to receive the same services. However, having the ability to receive the same service and not stating that we would receive the same services as the other property owners that are in the Apple Valley sphere is not clear, number one. Number two, as Mr. Thomas stated before, I'm unclear as to why this annexation comes at this time. I have heard rumors, and you know, we all know about rumors about the railroad coming through there, and it was a hidden agenda. However, even if the railroad did come through there, that would improve the property value. But I would like some transparency to be able to voice my vote appropriately. I intend to build a home on my property, and I don't know how this is going to have an impact on me. It looks like that the Los Angeles or the county fire department does not at this time supply services to that little area. So I'm trying to figure out how this would work, if I'm clear.
Well, Ms. Sapp, I think probably the best approach would be for our staff to get in touch with you and give you answers to your questions.
I asked this question in the June meeting last year. The clerk was going to mail me documentation. She said the pages were too many, so she would copy them and send them to me. She never did. So I've just been bouncing back and forth with this request. I'm hoping that someone will indeed get in touch with me, because I do want to see the area grow, but I want to see it grow in the right way.
Sam?
Ms. Sapp, I will, if you don't mind giving me a call. I am the executive officer for LAFCO.
You are?
Samuel Martinez.
And your number?
It's 909-388-0480.
I have 909-388-0480.
That's correct.
All right, Mr. Martinez, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sapp, for your comments. We have someone on Galaxy Note 8, whoever that is.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Ms. Sapp. Galaxy Note 8.
This is Mark Drummond. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
This is Mark Drummond. I reside at 20424 Fairfax Road, Apple Valley, California. I moved to Apple Valley proper in 1982. 92, I bought 2.5 acres in northern Apple Valley, which is now called the Golden Triangle. I attended town council meetings since the town incorporation up till 2007. When the town was discussing a land use designation change from agricultural farming to very high density, minimum 18,000 square foot, 2 homes per acre. 65 homeowners spoke in opposition, 2 for it, and the town council still voted to approve the land use change. I returned to the next council meeting, filled out a card to speak in the town council, and said if they did not listen to their constituents, people who owned homes, people who brought up family, people who the council is supposed to represent, what good is it for me to attend meetings without representation? I knew one day that I would be in the town. I stopped going to town council meetings after that. I personally spoke to Mayor Scott Nassif before and after this meetings many times about the annexation into the town. He told me how much my land would be worth when it changed over to industrial, commercial, light industrial. I told him I did not buy my property for an investment. I bought it to make a life for myself and my family, a better way of life. I spoke to Scott about these issues, 3 of them. 1, changing over to industrial commercial. 2, mandatory trash pickup from Apple Valley. 3, our road, Langley Road, is maintained by the county. He assured me that if the county graded our road, the town would do so too. There are now 3 homes out of 8 that have trash come to their property, and I have video of the dust and the road conditions that these dump trucks create. It is horrible. Scott assured me that I would not have to have mandatory trash pickup in my area. Lori Lamson, who's with us today, also assured me that these 2 conditions, trash pickup and road maintenance, would be done by the town of Apple Valley and would not have to have mandatory trash pickup, which I am on a fixed income too. Walmart Distribution Center was operational a little while back. 265 trucks per day were supposed to use Dale Evans Parkway to enter and exit facility. Shortly after that, the town decided to change a very small town, 2-lane road, Johnson Road, over to a designated truck route. All this has an impact on my better way of life, my home, my family, and my way of thinking about what government says and what government does. I too am on a fixed income. Trash pickup, mandatory trash pickup would put me over the edge. The dust would be unbearable, as I have video to show. I knew I was going to be part of the town since I moved there, and I know I will be part of the town. It's just there's so many provisions, standby assessment fees. I know I'm going to get hit with school tax fees now from Apple Valley, which is going to put me a little over. But I'd like to thank you for letting me speak my piece. And I am opposed to the annexation of Apple Valley right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Next, Lee Parks.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you, Commission. I'd like to echo Mark Drummond's comments. I agree with all of those as well. I came here I purchased my property here in what I guess is called the Golden Triangle in January of 2003. And the specific reason that I moved here was as a longtime off-road enthusiast, motorcycle racer, I wanted to be able to ride dirt bikes on my property. You can't do that in the town of Apple Valley. So I specifically chose a house in a location that was far enough away and out of the town that I wouldn't have to worry about that, let alone all the potential new liabilities, whether it be the animal shelter or the school fees or anything else that we might be assessed should you guys end up annexing this land. And I was the person, by the way, who drove door to door 5 years ago to get the signatures to overturn this or to protest this rather. And I will do so again, unless I can figure out some way that this makes sense for me. One of the questions I'd asked is, did you bother going to any of the residents or to the residents as a whole, I should say, before you guys started this process again? And because I know this is an expensive process as it was 5 years ago, and it just seems to me fiscally irresponsible to keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. As you know, that's the definition for insanity. And I feel it a little disingenuous now, as I'm for the first time hearing about these island provisions, that it seems like you guys went around all the residents, the people who actually live on the land, to make this island so that you could then invoke this as some additional pressure to get us to want to have the land annexed again. And as has been mentioned previously, all the services that those of us who live here need, we currently receive. I, like some of the other callers and letter writers, have my own well. I've got my own solar panels. So I'm independent in terms of power and water. And we're able to receive trash pickup when we want it. It doesn't seem like there are any services that the town is going to provide to us that would make me want to still be a part of that. Again, the whole reason myself and many people who live out here, some, as we've heard, predate even the formation of the town, was specifically to not have the rules of the town basically dictate how we can and can't have our homes, what color it needs to be painted, that we'd need to have concrete pads under RVs, et cetera, et cetera. And like I said, there's a reason that we all moved here, and it was specifically because this was our idea of the life that we wanted. And so unless there's something that you guys can tell us that's changed from 5 years ago and 10 years ago, I see the same thing happening all over again, and this just being a huge waste of everybody's time, as we'll once again have to go door to door to get the signatures to stop this. But it just seems really weird that you guys keep trying to do this without contacting the residents first to see if it's something that they actually want. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Parks, for your comments. It's the town of Apple Valley who's initiated this, not LAFCO. On to Mr. Don McPhee.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. I would just like to echo Mr. Drummond's comments and also Mr. Parks' comments and Mr. Thomas's comments. What I would like to know is why hasn't the city, or what is the city's plan to gain by annexing us? If this is not providing us with a better way of life, this is to put tax dollars in the city's pockets. Is that what it is? If they were going to provide water, sewer, and all these other amenities that they claim that they're going to provide, why haven't they provided it to all the areas they've already annexed? There's no water out here. There's no sewer out here. We take care of our own stuff. We have septic tanks. We have wells. We have the county dump carts that we take our waste to the dump at. We can opt to have a trash pickup if we want, but we're not mandated to have a trash pickup because this is in the county area. And I would just like to know what is the city's desires to have this area. To echo Mr. Drummond, I moved out here to just have a nice, quiet way of life. And I didn't move out here to make money on my property. I didn't move out here to have light industrial built around me so that I could force the cost of my property up and then force me to have to leave. I didn't do that. I came out here because this is where I wanted to live. And to echo Mr. Parks, you're flogging a dead horse. You keep doing the same thing over and over and over. And I don't see I just don't see the need for it. So anyway, I'm sorry I didn't have my stuff prepared better, but thank you for your time, and I'm gonna try to log off here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McAfee, for your comments. If the city of the town of Apple Valley is still on the line, do you wish to make further comments?
The town of Apple Valley, this is Lori Lamson. We are just fulfilling the requirements of the previous annexation that was approved a little over a year ago. A condition meaning that the commission required us to proceed with the process of annexing the remainder of the island. And unless the commission has additional questions, that's the end of my comments.
Very good, thank you. I will close now the public hearing on item 6 and bring it back to the commission for deliberation and action. Commissioners?
Mr. Chair, I did have a question on this item. Several of the speakers brought up the town's outreach. What was the extent of their outreach prior to submitting this annexation application?
I'll take that, Sam, unless you jump in. Due to the pandemic, the town was not able to do any canvassing door to door. Once it hit the LAFCO process, as required by law, individual notice was provided to each landowner and registered voter. And then following this, should the commission approve this today, when it goes through the protest proceedings, individual notice will be provided to each landowner and registered voter as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, discussion, questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I wanted to find out when these particular annexations are done, do they provide, or is it written in here, Mike, anywhere, that those existing uses are grandfathered in? In other words, if they exist today, they have the opportunity to continue to exist until such time they change use.
Yeah, I think the term we're talking about is legal non-conforming use. Sam, I do not recall seeing anything in the file from the code enforcement on anything. Can you confirm?
No, we did not. But yeah, it gets, if it's legal in the county, then yes, it becomes legal. So the key there is if it's legal now in the county, then yes, it gets grandfathered in. But if it's not legal in the county, then it obviously will not be legal once it's annexed.
I strongly suggest, one gentleman talked about why he purchased this home and the amenities that brought him to that area. I strongly suggest that when the city is outreaching, that they include or do an assessment for those residents that would like it done, if in fact there would be any changes to their current use. Is someone on the line still from Apple Valley?
Yes, I'm here. What, can you repeat your question?
When several of the speakers talked, they talked about their current amenities that they have at their homes now and why they bought their property. And if those particular uses are still legal within when it is annexed, or if they'll be grandfathered in, I suggest as you do your outreach to collectively get approval on this, that you assess those amenities for those residents.
Any, like Mr. Martinez indicated, any use that is currently allowed by the town or by the county of San Bernardino will be grandfathered into the town of Apple Valley. If there are uses in the area that are not legal, they would not be part of the annexation as far as grandfathering in with the town if they are not currently allowed within the town itself.
You mean allowed in the county?
If they're currently legal in the county, then they would be grandfathered into the town. If they're not legal in the county and they're not legal in the town, then those uses would not be able to be continued.
Understood. And that should be clarified for the residents. And then a person that has had to go through this several times, you were lucky you didn't get caught, but now, you got to clean it up. But in most cases, some of the things that they talked about, I'm sure the county allows those. So that needs to be clarified, because that's a big impediment when you're trying to annex people in. They just feel like all their rights are going to go away. And that's not always the case.
Thank you for that comment. Note well taken.
Other comments, discussion, questions? Is there a motion by the commission?
Hello?
Hello?
I'm sorry,
Hello?
public comment is over with. Commission,
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move the motion of approval for this staff recommendation.
we have a motion by Mayor Warren. Is there a second?
Commissioner, my hand has been up and I've been overlooked, even though I spoke earlier. I had another comment.
I'm sorry, public comment has been closed. Is there a second on Mayor Warren's motion?
Mr. Chairman, I will second the motion. So we can have purpose of discussion and a vote. I would like to have a comment too.
Go ahead.
The issue before LAFCO isn't really the land use of this area. That's a local decision with the town of Apple Valley. The issue before us is this a logical annexation into the town of Apple Valley. And there really isn't another logical provider for services here. I'm sympathetic to the people who are opposed to this annexation, feeling like they are being taken into the town, but there is a public protest process that is allowable, and I am sympathetic to their resistance to wanting to be in the incorporated area. But I also have to tell you, as a LAFCO commissioner, this is a logical action. The staff report details out a very logical and thoughtful action to go forward for the town of Apple Valley.
Other comments, discussion before we take a vote? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Bagley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner McCowan,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren,
Yes.
Commissioner Farrell.
Yes.
Thank you. That item passes. Thank you very much. Now we move on to discussion items 7, 8, and 9.
Chair McCallum,
Yes.
this is General Counsel. I just wanted to let you know that Commissioner Rao let me know that she cannot rejoin the meeting due to a schedule conflict. So I just wanted to state that for the record.
Okay, we still have a quorum though.
I believe so, yes.
The item 7 is a follow-up on the City of Atlanta's related to LAFCO 3232 and our continued monitoring for the city. Staff?
Yes, sir. We are on our scheduled updates. Short answer here, receive and file this report today, and we're going to move forward to the March 2021 hearing. The city's had, and this is enclosed to the staff report, there's 2 letters, one from the city itself and one from its auditor. The city has gone through, I believe, 2 or 3 city hall closures due to the pandemic, and also a reduction in staffing or a staffing reorganization at the auditor, their independent auditor. They were hoping to be here with their sole remaining audit. That's the 1819 audit at this meeting. Yeah, and they notified us that it won't be ready. It'll be ready by March. So it is not the hope, but it is the expectation of staff that when we return in March, that the city will be presenting its sole outstanding audit, which would be for 1819. I believe there is a city representative on the line, but I did not see a hand up. Staff's recommendations on the screen.
Does City of Adelanto have wish to comment? Is there a representative from the City of Adelanto? Evans? Stevana Evans? Go ahead. Go ahead. You're on mute. There you go.
There we go. Thank you, guys. And I apologize. I was not prepared to speak. I thought that staff would be here, but I would like to please ask that you guys consider staff's recommendation and go ahead and let us come back in March. We have been working super hard on those audits, and I know that our audit staff and city staff alike have been working diligently to get us caught up and get everything good to go. It is news to me. I apologize. I thought that the audit was prepared for this meeting, but I would ask just for the additional few weeks for us to seal that up and get it back to you and prepared for the March 17th meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Do commissioners have any questions of staff or the city?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Bagley.
I'm disappointed that we don't have the audit today. I understand there are limitations from coronavirus, but I also have to tell you at the March meeting, I really hope that we're not going to hear another excuse why this isn't done. This has been an arduous process. We have a responsibility to the public to see that these things are done. And I'll tell you quite frankly, I don't really find any excuse why they're not done today. So if the recommendation is that we have nothing to do other than move it forward to March, that's what should happen. But you can hear my disappointment in that we're still getting feet dragging from the city of Adelanto to complete these audits.
I have a hand raised from someone who has a phone ending in 4562. Unmute yourself if you wish to speak. Four, 562. Press *6 if you wish to speak.
Okay, I'm unmuted now.
Yes, you are.
Can you hear me? Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, Commission members. This is Ward Comers, the Finance Director for the City of Adelanto. Just wanted to let you know that I'm here, and we're, as LAFCO staff presented the letter from the city and the letter from our auditor. We're doing everything we can to get the audits completed as quickly as possible. No one wants them completed more than I do as the Finance Director. And I just want to reiterate that we're in no way dragging our feet on this effort. There's not a lot we can do in the middle of a pandemic. We're doing everything we can. And we are just as disappointed as you are that the audits aren't complete today. But we have to play the cards that are dealt us. And so we're continuing to move forward to complete the audits. And we look forward to having them to you at your March meeting. That concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I too would like to echo Mr. Bagley's comments. I'm very disappointed we don't have that audit, and I thoroughly expect it to be before us at our next meeting that we're having for it in March. Aquanetta, you look like you want to say something.
Yeah, I do. I agree with my colleagues on LAFCO, and I have been a proponent for a City of Adelanto in several occasions. And I would like to make a motion to approve staff's recommendation, but with a comment. I strongly urge your city to make this a priority, because this has been an ongoing issue And it is time that we get this off of the books and get it done. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make that motion.
Very good. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to second, but I do have a question for staff.
Go ahead.
Michael, you had mentioned that the 1819 audit is the last one we're waiting for. We actually should have the 1920 audit done as well. Are we going to bring that to the commission for review?
Well, saving that nice comment for the March hearing. So technically, they have 1 year. You have 1 year since the close of the fiscal year. So we didn't want to jump in and say something is actually due when they have until the end of June to get it done. But we will provide an update at the March hearing on that 1920 audit.
Okay, I'll wait for that update then. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, we continue as a group to support this city, but enough is enough.
Agreed. Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Yes, Commissioner Bagley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner McCowan,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren,
Yes.
Commissioner Farrell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 8 relates to the Commission's audit report for fiscal year ending June 30th. Staff?
Yes, sir. So item 8, this is the presentation for the audit. We're going to split this into 2 pieces. I'll be here for 5 minutes, and then I'll hand it off to partner Jennifer Farr. At the request of the commission, we do place retirement and net pension liability info into our year-end financial documents. And this is one of those year-end financial documents. This is a lot to take in at one time. It's one of these charts where you got to sit there and stare at it for a while to figure out what's going on. But I want to highlight the pertinent activity that took place during the audit year. And I want to underscore those 2 words, audit year. As the commission knows, we have been funding a reserve, a net pension liability reserve. We funded it for about 5 years. And in June 2019, so this is not this audit year, this is 2 years ago, commission approved $184,000, 963 to SB Sarah as an additional payment to reduce the net pension liability. That would not take place in the blue line. That actually took place above. But when you do these pension payments, they're a year in the rear. The actuarials are 2 years in the rear. Then you got a reporting year, which is 1 year in the rear, and that's where the 184,000 comes in. And then it hits in the audit year at year 0. So year -2 would be the pension payment. Year -1 is when it's reflected, and the year 0 is shown here as a LAFCO payment of roughly $185,000. And this is a quite shocking number, but even though the commission contributed the roughly $185,000, due to an actuary increase of $273,000, our net pension liability still went up. Now, this is all during the pandemic. And so when you go to the statement of net position, you have these things called deferred inflows, deferred outflows, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff that goes on with accounting. The gist of it is, and if Ms. Farr may be able to explain further, is that with the pandemic in calendar year Q2 or our fiscal year Q4, so we start to see big reductions in returns and a lot of other things. So the net pension liability went shooting through the window. Now, on a kind of like an interesting statement here, because of the $185,000 payment, our employment rates, I don't know if this kind of shows up with my mouse circling here, that pension payment reflected in the employer rates for fiscal year 2021. This is the year we're in. So kind of odd that you're going to say, hey, Michael, you're telling me in one regard, our net pension liability went up, but also you're paying a lower employer contribution rate to SB Sarah. How can those 2 things happen? And the answer is and oddly enough, COVID. And number two, different year reportings. The 185 was put in over a year ago, and then the actuary and different reports come out with employer rates roughly a year ago. So you have a lot of staggering. Nothing's always evened up. The gist of it is, when we're looking forward, we're going to contribute roughly $42,500 for in this fiscal year that we're in. So in a few months, we're going to come to the commission and ask for permission to make that payment to SB Sarah. That is scheduled. It's in the budget. Moving forward, forecasting next year's budget. So we'll be coming to the commission in March. At this time, roughly $43,852 if we were to amortize that out to the remainder of that initial period. Second item for the agenda is the auditor had to make material corrections to our audit. And in the auditor's report, which is an attachment to your staff report, but the staff report has it in full, so you can just stick in the staff report. In quote, LAFCO relies upon the County of San Bernardino to provide a majority of their accounting procedures, including the provision of a year-end trial balance based upon its account balances at the end. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that some things have slipped past LAFCO staff and have gone straight to the auditor. And the auditor is the one that is detected and corrected for matters that they had to be the ones to, in the end, correct it. And it's not as if LAFCO staff wasn't aware of these. So if we look at items 2 and 3, we actually detected them, these items, whichever they may be, and we simply handed them to our auditors, actually noting these detections, but didn't make the simple correction in the trial balance. And as with number 1, the auditor actually detected and corrected both of these. LAFCO was aware of the data, but it actually passed right past us. It goes straight from the county straight to our auditor. We did not receive a copy. Therefore, the auditor was the one to detect and correct it. And this is additional gains on our investments that happen after they're reconciled at the end of the fiscal year. And the same is for number 4 at the bottom. A document that was produced to go straight from the county and it goes to our auditor. They're the ones who detected and corrected it. So after speaking with our auditor, we conducted a root cause analysis of the material adjustments. And we do determine that there's an inappropriate reliance on the county's accounting system. The county's accounting system fits their needs. We are a participant. We're off to the side. We need to adapt to their system. Furthermore, we lack the ability to override the controls when their year-end process closes. The year-end process closed on July 9. We were still getting bills for the month of May and June all the way into early August. We could not go back into the county system and override it to make these adjustments. So once we figured out what the cause was, we discussed this with the auditor on 2 occasions, one with the staff and then one with the accounting manager, and reviewed this with the administrative committee, which took place roughly a month ago. That was with the chair, vice chair, and the designee, which was Ms. Rao. Discussed this corrective action plan, and it seems as if we are good to go. Staff actually also recreated our audit from scratch with this corrective action plan, caught everything. And this is simply what it is the corrections are actually this simple. It's technical, it's not behavioral, it's not systemic. In this blue column here, county ending balance, this is what we get from the county's trial balance. As one example, the county makes some auditing adjustments for its purposes, not LAFCO's, for its purposes related to our apportionment. It has nothing to do with cash. This number, 746,908, should not be there. It is as simple as LAFCO staff minusing it in one area and balancing it out in another, and then providing an ending balance. That is what the auditor wants to see from us, as is, this is a correction. We just can't identify it, which we did identify and say, hey, we saw something. They would like to see us correct it. We can do that. At this point, I'd like, if the commission has any direct questions for staff, we'd be glad to answer them. But if not, I'll hand it off to Jennifer Farr. And Ms. Farr, if I am not mistaken, This will be your last engagement with us, as we will move to a new partner at your firm.
Yes, and thank you, and good morning, commissioners. I just have some prepared comments to discuss with you, nothing to share on screen. And thank you for providing some information and background as well, Michael. So we have completed the audit for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2020, and we issued an unmodified audit opinion on January 4th of 2021. This is the highest level of opinion that you can receive, and it means that the financial statements and the footnotes are free of material misstatement. During our audit, we evaluate internal controls over all of the key accounting cycles, including cash receipting, cash disbursements, and payroll. And as a result of our evaluation, we are happy to tell you that we did not detect any material weaknesses in internal controls. As mentioned, our internal control letter does include one issue related to the adjustments to the accounting records that were detected and corrected as a result of our audit procedures. The internal control letter also includes management's responses regarding their corrective actions that they're planning to take in the future. And we have read those and believe that those will sufficiently remedy the internal control issue in the future. As part of an audit performed in accordance with government auditing standards, we are also required to test for compliance with certain laws and regulations that we believe are direct and material to the financial statements. And I'm happy to report that we did not identify any instances of non-compliance as a result of our testing. I did want to point out a few things on the financial statements themselves. The disclosures and financial statements are consistent with the prior year, and there were no new accounting standards that impacted your financial presentation. The general fund reported an increase in fund balance in the amount of $16,856, which is a positive change. However, I did want to point out in the back, towards the back of the report, there's a budget versus actual schedule, and we are reporting that expenditures did exceed the budget by $5,611. And overall, there was a budget shortfall of $6,431. So in comparison to your budget, the actual operations underperformed to the tune of $6,431. On the full accrual basis of accounting, which is the first two schedules in the report, you can see that net position decreased by $78,497. Now, the difference between what I mentioned previously with the general fund having a gain and now these schedules having a decrease in equity is related to that full accrual presentation. It's largely due to recording depreciation expense, a small increase in compensated absences liabilities, and an increase in the net pension liability. And as mentioned, although the pension liability did increase significantly, when you include the deferred inflows and the deferred outflows that will ultimately be amortized in future years, the actual decrease or impact of the change this year was only $29,000. So it is, when you add all of the accounts together, the impact's only $29,000. So as mentioned, the net pension liability with SB Sarah did increase from $885,000 to $973,000. This is primarily due to the 5% return on investments during fiscal year 18-19 that was lower than the assumed rate of return of 7.25%. So that difference gets amortized over several years. So you see the impact of it over a multi-year period. And as mentioned, that increase was offset by the additional contributions of $184,000 during fiscal year 18-19. We're always a year behind when we're reporting pension liabilities, which is unfortunate, but it does provide you some information about the trends. Included in the back of the report is a supplementary information schedule on the pension liability. Right now we have a 6-year trend that will eventually be a 10-year trend. And I did want to point out that as of the last measurement date that we have, the pension liability is 75.76% funded, which is an improvement from the prior year. So from a funding standpoint, there have been improvements over, I believe, the last 4 years. So every year the plan is becoming more funded. And then as required by state law, this is my last year of being the audit partner on your engagement. I did want to let you know that I have enjoyed working with you and serving the commission. And I've also enjoyed working with the LAFCO staff on the audit this year and in the last few years. The LAFCO staff, I find them to be very professional and transparent during the audit process, and it makes for a good audit process, and appreciate their efforts. During an unusual year with COVID, we were able to still perform the audit in a timely manner, and we're actually able to finalize the audit a month quicker than we did last year. So thank you for your efforts. And that concludes my prepared comments on the audit results. However, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about the audit process or the financial statements themselves.
Thank you, Ms. Farr, and thank you so much for your kind comments about our staff and the process. And we appreciate your efforts over the years. Any questions, comments by commissioners of staff or the auditor?
Mr. Chair, I have a question for Michael.
Go ahead.
Michael, you showed us the slide that discussed the material adjustments. We've been using county for ever. And this is the first year that I recall since I've been on LAFCO that material adjustments have been identified. Have they not been caught in prior years, or has the process changed that now revealed these misstatements? Can you help me understand why now and not before?
There's about 2 answers for this. So for item number 4 at the bottom, compensated absences, we pulled the trial balance in early October, and in mid-October is when the county auditor put in the compensated absences information. So in essence, we pulled the trial balance too early. We thought pulling it in early October would have been late, but it was actually too early. So we rectified that with them. We have 1 point of contact now instead of 4. So in previous years, we would, including the audit year that we're in, LAFCO staff made various requests to different I don't want to say departments, different offices over at the county auditor. One to get a compensated absences number, one to get the gains on investments number, one to get this. And it all just kind of came to a head this year. So after this, we've gone through this with the county. We've had a long conversation with them on the phone. We have 1 point of contact. We're going to write 1 letter. It's going to go to them, and it's going to outline the information we need. When it was brought to the county that we pulled a trial balance before the date, one of the answers was, well, how did you ask for this data? And we put in a ticket to one department, which we were asked to do. And then the person on our contact now says, oh, well, if that came to my office, we would have known that the compensated absences number wasn't in there. We know what to look out for you as being a trust agency. So as us being a trust agency, or even a client, I guess, and they know what to look out for in terms of our auditing needs now. So that's a great thing. A second part to your answer would be, yes, why now? What has changed? Well, some of these were there previously, like with the unrealized gains on investments. When the audit is conducted, there's a confirmation letter. I believe that's the word, Jennifer. And that's a letter that LAFCO staff signs, but does not send directly to its legal counsel or the county auditor. And the response comes back, bypasses LAFCO altogether, lands on the desk at the auditor. That has not changed. We were unaware that there was a material correction that was in these letters. That is simple as now as just us asking for a particular GASB report. I believe it's GASB 31. We just need to ask for that up front in this one comprehensive letter that we're going to do now. So what has changed from previous years? Well, it's the county, it's our independent auditor saying, LAFCO, if paraphrasing Ms. Farr with what you would say, if you're to be truly independent, you cannot be the one to detect and correct these things. It's got to be LAFCO staff. You've done this for about 2 years. This is the 3rd year this has happened. We need to be the ones to detect and correct them, which is why these things are significant and not material at this point, because we can correct them from this point forward.
So we don't have that many transactions with LAFCO. Is there a reason why we don't, have a consultant handle our own accounting? I know other LAFCOs have, a financial consultant that does this rather than their local county. Is there a cost savings for having county do this?
Sam could chime in on some more long-term policy, but there are internal control efficiencies that the county has. They vet, they have thick policy procedure manuals, and as I said, their own internal controls that are heavily vetted and looked at, if not every year, they're looked at quarterly. So we are comfortable with using the county system in terms of internal controls. But it then comes to, well, there are some flaws in it because we're not part of the county. So their system meets their needs. And it's SAP, the new county's new system. Excuse me, Ms. Cox, you asked if something changed. Yes, about 3-4 years ago, the county switched accounting systems altogether. And now all the bugs are worked out and they have a system that meets their needs. If we're going to continue using their system, we need to adapt to them. We need to be the ones to ask the questions. And we can't anticipate that. If you think you pull a trial balance and you pulled it in early October, is that correct? Apparently it was not correct. So there are flaws in the system which we've identified. Cost matters. We ride on their coattails in terms of the efficiencies. We are not paying much for using the county systems. As for using, in my opinion, using a bookkeeper moving forward, the corrections that we showed here on this slide, it's as simple as just as adding 2 new columns to an Excel spreadsheet and making the corrections for to be presented to our auditor. If we were to pay a bookkeeper for that, I don't know if there'd be cost efficiencies. It would be done through a professional bookkeeper, but LAFCO staff feels that we are technically proficient to do these moving forward.
Thank you, Michael. That answers my questions.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Seeing none, I'll ask for a public comment. Madam Clerk, did we get any written comments?
None received.
Any public on Zoom who wish to speak, please raise your hand by punching the button, or by, if you're on the phone, by punching *9. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission for action.
Mr. Chair, I'll move staff's recommendation on this item.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second Jim Bagley. Also have a comment. I'm glad to have staff be forthright and very open about the audit process and what's happened. That's what we expect from public agencies, and we have that standard within our own. There are obviously sometimes issues within the audits. This is exactly why we do these audits as public agencies, so we are transparent to the public.
And I agree. Thank you for your comments. Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second. Would you call the roll?
Yes. Commissioner Bagley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner McCowan,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren,
Aye.
Commissioner Farrell.
Yes.
Okay, item 9 is our fiscal year 2021 mid-year report. Staff?
I thought I would get away with this hearing with not speaking without the mute. I was proud to say I made it 3 hearings in a, but 3 hearings in a row I did it. Okay, it's not going to happen again. Moving into the mid-year. I'm going to be short on this one. 2 charts here just on one slide for you. Expenditures, services and supplies, 46% on track. That should be 47 or 48. There were bills that were submitted in December that did not clear. So that number is actually should be a bit higher, but the number is what the number is as of December 30. As for salaries and benefits, we had a reduction in staffing. The clerk and GIS person separated. So that's why it's at 45 rather than 50. And also this is the year that we have the extra pay period. The extra pay period happened in the first half. As for revenues, it's a big bad number, 68% of the apportionment. Obviously that does not meet the goal, but the county's apportionment or their share of the apportionment cleared in January. So we are fine with that one. So if you go down to this bottom chart, second to last line, budgeted remaining revenues shows a 663,000 number. That's the county's number that cleared. So we are fine on the apportionment. As for fees and deposits, slightly below that 50% mark. You'd like to be 50 or higher, but given the pandemic, LAFCO staff will take 46% at the mid-year. The bottom chart is the chart that you're all accustomed to that we provide in all our reports. We have a fund balance of $560,000. I want to say that does not count the county's apportionment, which is at the bottom. There are 2 types of reserve, committed and assigned. Committed is the money that is not the commission's. It's earmarked for purposes, pension liability, compensated absences. And then we have some assigned monies for contingency and general reserve, should that need arise. We anticipate the remaining expenditures as 526,000 and budgeted remaining revenues. We are not counting any proposal activity whatsoever. We're going to be extra conservative here. So just the county's apportionment that has cleared with a projected carryover at this time, conservatively of $42,000 roughly. Should the commission have, one item I'd just like to throw here, programs. As the commission knows, in July, we applied for a sustainable agricultural lands conservation grant. And I know Sam has something in the EO report, so you didn't hear from me, but it was received. And we'll have a work plan coming up in the budget, which will be there in March. Service reviews, the commission considered the cemetery review. After this hearing, we will be entering into the Park and Recreation Service Review countywide. So we'll be bringing back our consultant, Bob Aldrich, and our new employee, Hannah. She'll be working with us on that. Governance training program is in hiatus with the pandemic. It was supposed to be LAFCO 101. So once the restrictions are lifted, we'll gauge the interest for that program. And there is a need for that right now, I tell you. So we hope that this can get back. And the fiscal indicators program is also on hiatus. Our LAFCO website is nearing its end in terms of support. It's an older model. Let's just go with that. And it's starting to show its bugs. It's not being supported in certain manners. And that also affects the fiscal indicators program. So in the budget, Sam will be discussing the revamping of the LAFCO website, a new LAFCO website. And that he'll discuss with the administrative committee first, whether we're going to revamp the fiscal indicators program, which would mean making it more user-friendly, mobile access, getting rid of some of the indicators that don't have strong use, replacing them with ones that are more reflective, or are we going to scrap the program altogether? So staff recommends receipt and file of this report. Be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions of staff?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, it took me a minute. Michael, that LAFCO 101 program, I mean, it's applicable to any new government officials trying to learn what LAFCO does, as well as those of us that could use a reminder now and then. I would suggest that maybe we think about videotaping that. Since the pandemic began, most of us have become very adaptive to viewing training online. And I just think that's something that we could use more than just one particular meeting at one particular time. So that would be my suggestion for staff to take a look at.
Good suggestion. I agree. Other comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll ask for if there are any public comments. Have we received any, Madam Clerk?
None received.
Those of you on Zoom, if you want to speak on this item, please raise your hand by pushing the button, or if you're on the phone, pushing *9. Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission for action.
I'll move the commission receives the report.
Second.
And a second. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Yes. Commissioner Bagley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner McCowan,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren,
Yes.
Commissioner Farrow.
Yes.
That passes on to our information items. Item 10 is the legislative oral report. Sam? You're muted.
Sorry, I made the same mistake, Mike. So I just have a short oral update on legislation. We still have not heard if Napa LAFCO is proposing any changes to the bill that would extend the sunset date to our pilot program under 56.133.5. The bill SB 13 is the exact language that I presented to you last year in January. Senator Dodd simply reintroduced the same bill. However, before I ask for the commission's support again on the said extension of the sunset provision to our pilot program, I want to make sure we understand what changes NAPA is adding to the bill, which may or may not change our position, but it would really be helpful to know what the changes are. So hopefully we will find out by March. That ends my staff report for the legislative report.
Any questions on the legislative report? Next is your executive officer's oral report. Sam?
Thank you again. So the staff report outlines my EO report for today. I just want to remind the commission a couple of things. I want to remind you that we are not having a February meeting, and then our next scheduled meeting will be on March 17th. As Mike had indicated, the DOC did award the grant to LAFCO for the SOC program. So following notification from the DOC, staff will provide the commission with an update on the work plan. And then finally, I did want to, I informed the commission that we now have a new analyst. Hannah Larson just started a couple weeks ago, and I just wanted to introduce her to the commission and to officially welcome her to the team. So, thank you.
Welcome. Would you like to say something or reveal yourself so we know who you are?
Hi. Yeah, my name's Hannah Larson, and I'm excited to be in this position and to be working with you guys.
So where are you coming to us from?
I am coming from Louisville, Kentucky, where I was working as a cartographic technician at the Census Bureau.
Louisville, Kentucky. That's God's country. Back in, I was born in Kentucky, in the western part of Kentucky, but you're in horse country in Louisville.
Yeah.
And it's Louisville, not Louisville, right?
Definitely, yeah. You can tell when someone's an outsider if they say it like that.
That's right. Well, welcome. We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Okay, commissioner comments. Anyone like to have some comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mayor Warren.
I wanted to apologize to Samuel. I sent him an email last night when I realized I was going to possibly miss the inauguration today because of the timing. But fortunately, I forgot you have to be elected. I mean, you have to be sworn in by noon. So I was able to still see the inauguration. I had planned on having my grandkids with my coat on, because usually I get a chance to go to DC so we could feel like we were there on the lawn. But because of all the events that were going on, I just decided, you know what, you probably need to just stay here and watch it on television like everyone else. So Sam, sorry.
No worries.
But also on another note, many of you may remember Councilmember Ken Willis, used to be in the city of Upland. He passed on January 17th. And the reason why this may or may not be significant to LAFCO board members, when I was first sworn in as a council member, and when I would have issues that were going on, Fontana was doing a lot of annexations. And our mayor at that time, Mark Noemi, was very involved in that process, which kind of helped me speak out today about, I know how that feels when you get annexed in and you've got these other plans and dreams for your homes and your property. It was Ken that sat down and spent a number of hours with me explaining how important and how vital LAFCO was to the process of assuring that people had somewhere to go to speak about their concerns. And it opened up a love for me on how we come together and critically look at projects and say, where do we best fit, or where does this project best fit? So I wanted to bring to everyone's attention that he did pass, and what a great council member, a great person he was, and how much he loved San Bernardino County, and wanted to let people know that he had passed and that we pray for his memory. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate that. Jim Bagley?
I don't have any comments, just to say I'm glad to participate with Zoom. I hope that we'll all be inoculated soon and we'll be able to meet in person again.
I'm scheduled to get the vaccine tomorrow.
Very good. I will be in line the moment it's available.
I'm waiting.
Well, you're not as old as I am, Aki, so you know, you might have to wait a little longer.
Mr. Chair, I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
Paula, we did not have a second on the consent item. When Commissioner Dennison asked for that his name was changed, or Mr. Farrell, I don't think we got a second on the consent item.
Yeah, he seconded it.
Yeah,
okay.
We did.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Just wanted clarification.
Other comments? Jim, you still want to speak?
No, that was it. Just glad to see everybody. Hope to see you soon in person again. I would really look forward to that.
You're not the only one. I'm tired of these Zoom meetings. I'd like to, if don't take this wrong, I'd like to get physical again, you know?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I do have a comment about the inauguration process. This is one of the more significant things we do as Americans as a part of our democracy. There was a conflict today about part of that ceremony with our LAFCO meeting. It's too late to do anything about it today, but sometimes in the future, if there is a significant event that might conflict, I wouldn't mind moving this meeting back an hour or rescheduling possibly. So those of us who are participants and the public also is not excluded from participating in an event like the inauguration process.
Agreed.
Just through food for thought in the future. Be 4 years before we have such an issue again, but there are other possible conflicts where I do think we should have some flexibility.
Thanks for the comment, Jim. I agree. Other comments from the commissioners? Seeing none, I'll ask for any public comments on items within the subject matter jurisdiction of LAFCO that are not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, were there any written comments submitted for comments from the public?
None received.
If there's any public wishing to speak, please raise your hand by pushing on the button, or for those on Zoom via phone, press *9. Seeing none, if there's no other business to come before the commission, we'll stand adjourned.
See you in March.
Stay safe, and we'll see you in March.